A rare courtroom moment in the United States has turned into a deportation case into a powerful reminder that even immigration authorities must obey the law. You're watching Times XP, it's me, Dhritya 3. Well, a US federal court has ordered the American government to bring back an Indian national who was deported to India despite a clear court order stopping his removal. The judge ruled that what happened was not just a mistake, but an unlawful act that violated due process and directly undermines the authority of the court here. This particular case, it is extraordinary because deportations almost never get reversed. But this time the court stepped in and said that enough is enough. The man at the center of this case is Francisco da Costa, an Indian citizen who has lived in the United States since 2009. After more than 15 years in the country, his life was suddenly unpinned in a matter of hours. So here's how it all unfolded step by step. On the morning of December 20th, 2025, a US district court in Texas formally took control of da Costa's legal case. The judge issued a clear written order stating that the government was not allowed to deport him without first getting permission from the court. In fact, the language was firm, the message was unmistakable. Removal was prohibited. But just hours later, that order was ignored. Despite the stay, da Costa was taken to the airport and placed on an international flight to India that departed Houston at 2:55 in the afternoon. Well, this happened more than 3 hours after the court order had already been issued. In the meantime, court records show that immigration officials, government lawyers, and detention center staff, they were all aware of the stay before the plane took off. Yet, the deportation went ahead anyway. In fact, when the case returned to the court, the government argued that the removal was accidental. The judge was not convinced. The court ruled that intent does not matter in this situation, whether the deportation was deliberate or careless. It was still illegal because it directly violated a US judicial order. Basically, in simple terms, the court said that once a judge issues a stay, the government must stop everything immediately. Well, the background of the case, it makes the entire ruling even more significant. Da Costa had earlier been granted voluntary departure by an immigration judge, which would have allowed him to leave the United States on his own terms. However, after hiring a lawyer, he filed a motion to reopen his case. His reason was serious. He had conditions in India that had changed. He said he now faced a risk of persecution because he had converted to Christianity. Now, under the US immigration law, filing that motion changed everything. His voluntary departure automatically became a final removal order, but his legal challenge, it was still pending. The immigration judge had not yet ruled on whether his case would be reopened or not, but by deporting him before that decision, the court said the government risked stripping him of his legal rights to be heard. The judge noted that raised serious due process concern. Well, the government tried another argument, by the way. Officials told the court that bringing da Costa back was unnecessary and that he could continue his legal fight from India. They also claimed that court lacked authority to order his return. Well, the judge rejected both the arguments. The court said justice required restoring the situation to how it should have been if the unlawful deportation had never happened. Well, to support this particular decision, the judge cited a ruling by the Supreme Court of the United States. That ruling makes it very clear that returning a wrongfully deported non-citizen is a valid and proper procedure when a court order has been violated. In other words, courts are not powerless, and specifically when the authority is ignored. The final order was direct and it was not to be compromised. The US government has been instructed to facilitate da Costa's return to the US as soon as possible. Well, authorities also have been told to submit a detailed plan within 5 days, explaining exactly how they will make that happen. But For now, the court has not punished the government. Requests for contempt finding and financial penalties are denied at this particular stage, but the judge left the door open for those actions later on if they are needed. Well, in the end, this ruling sends a strong, powerful message, far beyond just one case. It tells immigration authorities that court orders are not optional here. It reassures immigrants that due process still matters, and it shows that even in deportation cases, the law has limits that it cannot cross. Well, for thousands who are watching closely, this is more than a legal victory. It proves that judicial oversight still holds power, even against the system itself.